So now anyone that joins should see your screen, your first screen that you'll have up.
Got it.
And then
All right, thank you.
I think, yeah, it's already recording. So yeah, okay, great. And then I just figured in the end, like I said, we only have one person registered, but I know Angela has several people she wants to send this out to as well that didn't, for whatever reason, register, but she said she had. So I'll just keep the, clean up the recording at the end, and then she'll have it to distribute. So
Great.
All right. So like I said, I'll just give it a few minutes after 2, and then I'll go ahead and start.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm going to do a quick bathroom break, so I'm going to mute myself and we'll be on at 11.
No problem.
Alrighty.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes for anyone else that's going to be joining, and then we'll go ahead and get it started. So thank you. All right, and thanks again for joining us. Today we'll be doing our webinar, Top Advantages of the Cloud for Budgeting and Business Intelligence, Enabling World-Class Decisions. And leading our webinar is Ohi, who is the Senior Solutions Engineer at Solver with Bit360. And just as a reminder, we will be recording the webinar and then sending it out to all the registrants. But if you did want additional information, you can reach out to Angela Harris, who is our Client Services Manager. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to put them in the chat feature or the Q&A feature, and we can get to those at the end during Q&A. So with that, I will go ahead and hand it over to Ohi and get things started.
Okay. Hopefully everyone can hear me now. I just got a notification saying I got muted. Sorry, I just got another notification saying I just got muted. Can you guys hear me? Anyone? All right, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. My name is Ohi, and I will be going over BI360 and how it can be used to enable world-class decisions for your organization. So world-class decisions, what does this mean? Making decisions isn't easy, even simple ones like, what should I eat? A lot of the decision making is based on past history. What did I eat the night before? Am I going to want to eat it again? Looking at my receipt, I realized I spent too much money eating out last night, so I should probably eat something cheaper tonight. But some of that decision could also be based around different sources like word mouth recommendations from friends or websites that around make decisions is gathering all of your sources to make the best informed information. So that I hope that in today's webinar, you'll be able to see how BI360 can help you make world-class decisions for reporting and budgeting purposes. All right, and trying to move my PowerPoint slide here. Sorry, apologize. All right. So before I jump into the actual product itself, I want to talk about the challenges many users are facing today. Right. So many organizations are spending a lot of time manually creating reports using spreadsheets, and we call this the overloaded manager. All right. So this creates a major headache for the following reasons. There are many data sources you need to report off of. The data sources could range from ERP systems or payroll data source like ADP, operational data source, or even a non-financial data source like Google Analytics to capture how many people visit your websites. Accessing all of this data could be difficult. All of these disparate data sources ultimately mean you have to learn and use multiple tools to create your reports. And if there's ever a need to combine multiple reports from a varying data source into a single report package, there's a lot of manual work involved copy and pasting the various data sources into a single presentational view. There could also be multiple versions of Excel models floating around without any way to secure the data. So there's no way to standardize the report templates. So rather than wasting your life away as an overloaded manager, and as you can see, this person is very stressed out, I want to show you how BI360 can be used to address all of the issues that come with the manual reporting process. We want to convert people from an overloaded manager to a reporting hero, someone that no longer has to waste time preparing manual reports, but spends more time making world-class decisions. So BI360 hopes to address the concerns of doing a manual report in the following way. Have a data warehouse to bring all of the disparate data sources into a single place. Disparate data sources will now be available at your fingertips. Because all of the data will now be in one place, you'll only have to use and learn one reporting tool for all of your reporting needs. And lastly, rather than spending all of your time manually copy and pasting reports to send them out to people, all reports can be accessed via a convenient online portal. Now, this is the reporting side of our software. We also have a budgeting component to it. All right. So we find that for a lot of people today, organizations, they're doing a lot of manual Excel budgeting. And so we call this a spreadsheet juggler. And again, very stressed out because there's a lot of different data sources feeding this spreadsheet, a lot of copy and paste work involved in, copying the actuals to help determine the forecast or the budget for next year. And with manual spreadsheets, there's no workflow. Any commenting that takes place in a budget process, they just get lost in email. So again, a lot of manual work, even tracking any approvals around the budget. All right. There's also no clean automated way of doing a budget board presentation because again, these budgets are living in spreadsheets. So a lot of work involved in gathering the budgets together for a presentational view. But with BI360, we again hope to convert the spreadsheet juggler that's stressed out into a decision optimizer because with BI360, we can automatically bring in all of the different data sources that feed a budget. All right, you're going to see in the presentation how all of our budgets are parameter-driven models. So what that means is the budget models are dynamic in that you can reuse the templates over and over again for future budget years, budget seasons. You can use them again to run it for any department, location, line of business, you name it. These parameters are customizable. All right. With BI360, all of the budget entries are web-based. So again, we're totally going away from entering budget into spreadsheets, but entering them in a convenient portal that can be accessed anywhere. We also provide budgeting workflow in that you have the ability to monitor the entire budgeting process from beginning to the end, and also any workflow involved. We have an approval system where any budget that gets submitted will be approved before it officially gets submitted. And then we also have dynamic forecasting and modeling. So with that said, I want to go over this BI360 diagram that explains how all of the components of BI360 come together. All right. So the most important thing here is this data warehouse. This is ultimately where all of your actual data from all of your different data sources will get pulled in. All right, so whether the data source is a CRM type of data, an ERP, payroll, or web statistical data, or even if it's data that's living in your spreadsheets, you can compile it all together and push it into our data warehouse. All right, and then from here, as you can see, we have our reporting engine, we have the budgeting engine and our dashboarding engine that can pull all of the data out from the data warehouse. All right, and then with the budgeting piece, not only can you pull data to help populate your budget amounts, you can also push your budget data back into the data warehouse. And once the budget data is back into the data warehouse, it can be pulled out in any report for actuals to budget variance types of analysis. All right, so I'm going to walk you through this entire process of first how the data warehouse is used to bring in all of the data sources, and then from there, how you can do any kind of report or budget or dashboards against that data. All right, so with that said, hopefully you got a good high-level understanding of what BI360 looks like. So I'm going to now walk you through the BI360 product and show you how BI360 can alleviate a lot of the pain points that we discussed today and ultimately turn you into world-class decision makers. All right, so with that said, I am opening up my internet browser, and here what you see is our BI360 portal. So we talked about, BI360, we make it very convenient for users to access any of the reports or budget templates. So this is getting away from any Excel emails that may be passed back and forth. As long as you have access to internet, and you'll be able to access this portal anytime, anywhere. All right, so I'm going to log in, and we have different types of users in BI360. We have power users that have the ability to access a data warehouse, set up security, have access to both budgeting, reporting. So I'm logged in as an administrator, which is why you see everything here on this menu option. But depending on the user type, if a user only has ability to do reporting, then reporting would be the only thing that they see here. If a user has ability to do reporting and budgeting, they'll be able to see reporting and budgeting listed out in this menu option. All right, so again, I mentioned that I'm logged in as an administrator, which is why you see everything. Okay, so I'm going to briefly talk about the data warehouse. All right, and so I mentioned earlier that the data warehouse is where you bring in all of your different data sources into a single place. Now, how does that data get into the data warehouse? We have something called API connectors, all right? And let me show you what our marketplace currently looks like. So these are all of the data sources that we currently support. And these API connectors, this is a constantly growing list. So again, whether it's ERP data or even data like Google Analytics or CRM data coming from Salesforce, we have it here. If it's a CSV, if we don't have an API connector that you guys have, then we also have a CSV connector where as long as you can get that data into an Excel CSV file, we can automatically bring that data in. We also have a SQL connector. So if the data source is SQL based, our SQL connector can bring that data in as well. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the process of bringing in the data because that gets a little bit technical, but there is a component where it's just a one-time setup, and you just have to determine how frequently you want to bring the data over. So with ERP, I've seen it where it's updated on a nightly basis, but you can determine the frequency. If you need it to be more frequent, where it's every hour, every minute, you determine the frequency, and it will automatically bring in the integration for you. Now, I get this question asked a lot. What about if it's month end and we're making a lot of changes in the ERP and we want to see the changes reflected in reports right away? What do we do in those situations? Well, we also have a on-demand refresh button that you can click. Rather than waiting for the next integration to load, it's just a simple click of a button and the data will automatically refresh and then it'll automatically reflect in all of your reports. All right, so the key takeaway here in the data warehouse is that it ultimately allows you to bring in all of your different data sources so that you can use just one tool to get all of the reports that you need and also one tool to do all of your budgeting. All right. So with that said, I'm going to go into reporting now. Because once the data is all there, then we can assume, we can report against the data, we can budget against that data. And so one thing to keep in mind is that I'm working with demo data, all right? So as you can see here in my demo environment, I have tons of different types of report examples available. We have all of your typical financial statements like the P&L, balance sheet, cash flows, that are all available for download for free. So if you don't want to recreate reports from scratch, you can use one of our many existing templates. And as for the P&L, we have all the different combinations of ways you can view a P&L, whether it's a monthly P&L or P&L variance where it's actual versus forecast versus budget, or P&L by department by month, P&L departments going across the column. So again, any combination you can think of in terms of viewing a P&L, we have thought of it and we have an example built out. All right. Other types of reports that are here are, given that with the data warehouse, you can now bring in additional data sources, you're going to have other types of reports besides just financial reports. You're going to have operational reports. You can have, reports that just focus on KPIs, or you can have payroll reports if you choose to bring in a payroll data source like ADP. It's a pretty commonly used data source for a lot of companies. And so given that you now have all these different types of reports, you're going to need a way to organize those reports. And with the different report types, different types of users will have access to the reports. And what I mean by that is, some users will only have access to the financial reports. Some users will only have access to the payroll reports, or some users don't have any access to the payroll reports because they contain sensitive information. And so that's where these category folders come into play. And this is really great for organizing your report contents. And so as you can see here, I created a folder specifically around the financials. I also created a folder around my operational reports or my sales reports or just around receivables. So this is a great way to organize, and it's very easy to set these folders up. And then also within each folder, you can share the folders to specific people. And so this is where you're getting into the report security and how you can automatically limit certain people from seeing sensitive information. All right, so for any reports, you have the ability to share, for any folder, category folder, you have the ability to share. So you can share them with a single user, or you can share it to multiple people via roles. And when you share a folder, all of the contents within a folder will automatically get shared. So as you can see, if I now click on a specific, this is a financial report, my report list shrinks down considerably, and this just makes it a lot easier for me to search for a particular report. All right, with that said, I'm going to first start off by showing you examples of completed report and what that looks like, and what it would look like for a user to run a report, interact with a report, and changing the parameters. So let me just pull up a simple P&L report here. All right, and so later in the presentation, I'm just going to quickly show you what the report designer looks like, and I can show you how you go about creating a report from scratch or modifying an existing report like this. All right, but one thing to note about our report designer, and hopefully you can see glimpses of it here in this final report template, is that our report designer is Excel-based. So the benefit of an Excel-based report designer is, one, Excel is a tool that all business users already know how to use. And so with that, you can incorporate a lot of the Excel functionality into a Bit360 report. So one example is all of the formatting that you see here, they're all Excel formatting. that you can bring over into a Bit360 report. Any calculations, simple calculations from this total line here. If I were to show you the Excel version of this, it's just an equal sum formula when you set this report up. If you have any KPIs in your organization where it's, the sum of this amount times the sum of this amount divided by the sum of this amount, again, you can use your existing Excel knowledge to set those formulas up. You don't need to have any programming skills to set up any formulas in a report or a budget template. All right, other Excel features that you might notice here in this report is the grouping and ungrouping feature. So this is a P&L report that breaks out all of the expense categories, and you can see them rolled up. All right, so you have now the option to either view expenses at a category level, or if you want to see it broken out by the individual accounts, you just simply uncollapse this. And again, another Excel feature, and you can see the accounts, individual accounts. And if there's any more additional detail that you want to see in this amount, you have the ability to right click. And with the click of a button, you'll immediately get access to the drill down summary or the drill down transactional detail level. All right. Other things that you might notice here is you'll notice that we have some colors that pop out at this report. So we use conditional formatting, which is, again, another Excel feature where you can incorporate rules and say, hey, if a variance is negative, then automatically display the color red. If the variance exceeds a specific threshold that you can define, have it display green. So these are the types of things that we hope that Bit360 can help you into becoming a world-class decision maker, and that, rather than spending less time manually preparing this report, and when I say manually preparing, I'm sure you guys are already familiar with copy and pasting your actuals from somewhere and then getting your budget from another spreadsheet and compiling all together. You can spend more time doing analysis. So when I look at this report, I can immediately look here and say, hey, why is this big red color? Why is there a big variance? And again, with a click of a button, I can have access to the drill down information to do my research. All right, and the other thing that you'll notice here is you have the ability to input comments to explain away where the variance is coming from. And so I can type comments in here, and whatever comments I enter, it will be viewable for anyone that has access to this report. All right. The other thing that I want to mention is, one, the biggest takeaway is that our reports are all designed with Excel-based Designer. So it's very, very flexible in terms of creating the exact report that you want. The other thing is that all our reports are driven by these parameters here, and this is ultimately what makes the reports dynamic, in that you can run this report for a specific entity. Okay, or here, this is a report that compares actuals to budget. So I'm going to get into our budgeting piece shortly, but with Bit360 budgeting, you have the ability to capture multiple budget versions. And here you can select which particular budget version you want to compare your actuals to. So whether it's budget version 1 or budget version 2, or you want to see the final budget, again, this is where you can select. And whatever budget version you select here and you click on this run button, it'll automatically refresh to populate that particular budget version that gets selected here. And of course, almost all our reports have this. There's a period component where you have the ability to run a report for any historical months or current period, or this period parameter allows you to reuse this template over and over again for future months. Right. So once you run a report here, there's several ways you can share this. So one easy way is to just simply export this report out to Excel. Probably many of you guys are already doing this today with whatever reporting solution that you guys are using. But you'll find that when we export it to Excel, it retains all the formatting. It also retains the formulas. All right, and the reason for it is because, I mentioned our reports are originally all designed in an Excel-based designer. And so things like the formulas, you don't have to enter in. And so what users like to do with this is, because this is just a flat file, it's not tied to a database anymore. You can do a what if analysis on the fly and say, hey, for this month, what if our revenues actually ended up being $1 million? You'll see how this entire report automatically changes. And again, that's because the formulas don't get lost during the export process here. So from here, you have the ability to save as. You can save as an Excel file, you can save as a PDF, and then email it off to someone, maybe someone outside of your organization that doesn't have access to Bit360. Other ways you can share this report is you can share it internally through the Bit360 portal. So by clicking on the share button, it will show up a list of all of the available Bit360 users. You can share it to single users at a time or multiple users via roles. All right. And then when a report does get shared, it gets sent to a user's inbox. I'm just going to quickly show you what that looks like. So we have something called an archive inbox, and we designed it to make it look very similar to your Outlook inbox, and that you can easily tell between a new report that has been shared versus an already report. So whenever you share a report with another user, they're going to get a notification here in their portal. They'll also get an email notification letting them know that a new report has been shared with them. They should log into the portal to go see what it is. All right. So while we're here, I do want to talk about other cool things that will hopefully just make your life a lot easier. So just from my years of experience doing this, we find that a lot of customers are spending a lot of time and work preparing report packages together for presentational purposes. So whether it's part of their monthly presentation or they're doing a board presentation, they're getting spreadsheets, copy and pasting that into PowerPoint, and again, a lot of work involved. Well, we have something called a playlist. We automate that entire process. So we make it very easy to compile reports, whether it's a P&L report, if you want to compile a P&L report with a customer report and a travel report and an HR report and a compensation report. It's just a matter of click, 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 and then you add it to a playlist and it automatically compiles it together for you. I'm going to show you what a already completed playlist presentation looks like. So again, you can have multiple versions of a playlist, one for monthly presentation, one for budget presentation, one for board presentation. All right. So we have something called a playlist view, and this really does mimic a PowerPoint slide in that you can easily toggle through all of the reports that make up the package. You can even start off with a nice table of contents that give order to what you're about to prepare or what you're about to present. You start off with strategic high-level information, and by the way, these are all things that our budgeting solution has the ability to capture. You can enter things in like your FTE goals or your net income goals. All of these graphics that you see here are also Excel graphs that you can incorporate into any report. And then from a strategic high level view, you can start going a little bit deeper into the components of your financials, starting off with the revenues. All right. We also have a report. This is a really pretty cool report. So you saw earlier in the P&L the ability to enter comments to explain things like why there's a big variance. And we find that any account that has a variance comment associated with it, those are actually the important ones that you need to spend extra time analyzing. So this report actually automatically compiles those accounts with comments with them in a single view, so that you can easily just go through this. You don't have to hunt for the accounts with comments associated with it. This report automatically compiles it all together for you. All right, so these are the comments that were entered in that P&L report. All right, so again, just showing you some other examples that make up this report package. This is another view of a P&L where it's doing month to date actuals versus prior year, actual versus budget, variance columns all in the single view. And then here's a year to date actuals versus prior year to date budget. All right. And so the nice thing about this is that if you were to imagine yourself in a boardroom and you have a projector on the screen and your boss is looking at this and he's like, why is there such a big variance in this particular count? Well, today, if you're doing this in PowerPoint or in Excel, someone has to open up their laptop to do additional research to find out where these big variances are coming from. But with Bit360, with a simple click of a button, you'll automatically have access to any of your drill down information. So again, option to drill down into the summary level or the transactional detail level. All right, so if I click on this amount here, you see that it automatically shows all of my detail information. All right. So I mentioned earlier that with the data warehouse, it allows you to do other kind of reporting, not just limited to financials. So this is where we're going to start to get into some of the transactional operational reports. So, any subledger reporting that you do, we have AR sales report where you can do sales by salesperson. Again, this is going to vary, on the organization, but our reporting software is extremely flexible in that you truly can create any type of report as long as the data is there. So this is an example of a travel expense report where you can see it broken out by all of the different travel expense types like meals, parking, and here you see it broken out by all of the different departments. This is a compensation and headcount report. So again, I mentioned payroll is a commonly used data source that people bring over into the data warehouse. And so with that payroll data, this is just one angle of that payroll data where you can see headcount information broken out across the different departments. And so this is a report where, just looking at a quick glance of this, you can immediately tell in which department you need to do some hiring in, right? So hopefully this just gives you a flavor of what it would be like for a user to run a report, what it would be like for a user to compile reports together for presentational purposes. All right. So with that now, I'm going to quickly show you what it looks like to design a report. Okay, and while we're waiting for that to load, I'm sure you guys all saw the notification here that my batteries are low. So I'm just gonna quickly grab my charger. So I'll be back in 2 seconds. All right, so I apologize for that. My charger is plugged in, so hopefully this presentation just won't abruptly end. All right, so I don't know if you guys saw that, but what I did was I started off here in the portal and I wanted to create a new report. And what it did was it opened now an Excel application. So when I say we're truly an Excel add-in, I literally mean we're truly an Excel add-in tool. People see this and they're like, wow, you guys are literally in Excel. And the answer is yes. So again, when people see this, they immediately get comfortable because, again, Excel is a commonly used tool for all business users. And so, when it comes to designing a report, really any formatting that you do, it's all using the features here in Excel that hopefully you guys are already familiar with. All right, so this is something that only power users can do, someone that has the appropriate license to create reports from scratch or modify existing reports. And what you see here to the left, it's our report designer menu. All right, and each of these little blue cubes that you see here represent a data source that's brought over into the data warehouse. So ERP data, that's always pretty standard. People bring the financial data over. And if I open up this general ledger folder, all of the segments of your chart of account structure like account, department, division, you name it, they're all parsed out so that it's available here. Now, the convenient thing here is that everything is in plain English. Okay, you don't have to deal with SQL table names or anything like that. Department is labeled as department, customer is labeled as customer, so that when you're designing a report, it's very easy to know and choose exactly what fields you want to bring over into a report. Now, other data sources like payroll, I mentioned that's a commonly brought over data source. So now if I open up this payroll module, you see fields like employee, salary, commission, employee, start month, hire month. So again, hopefully you're starting to see now, really this is where you have access to all of your data sources at your fingertips. It's literally listed out here in these blue cubes. And then the real benefit is that you just need to learn one tool, which is Bit360, to create any of the reports that you bring over into the data warehouse. All right, so with that, I'm just going to quickly build out a simple trial balance just to demonstrate how any report gets built. So whether it's a financial report or a operational report, you already saw some examples of what a completed report template could look like. All right, but I just want to demonstrate how those reports got created. All right, so with that, I'm just quickly doing some formatting for my nice header here. You can insert your company logo. You could pick colors that match your company logo. And from here, we say that everything is drag and drop. And so in my trial balance report, what are the fields that I want to see? Well, I definitely want to see my natural account. So I went in this list, pulled it, dragged and dropped it into here. We have the ability to control our rows and columns, very similar to other reporting tools out there. All right, if I want to see my account descriptions, again, I just look for that field. All the fields will be available here on this list, and then I just drag and drop it into Excel, just as easy as that. All right, so hopefully you're beginning to see how easy it is to really create any kind of report. It's just a matter of looking into the list of that particular field that you're looking for. And remember, the data warehouse allows you to bring in all of the fields that you need for reporting and budgeting purposes. So you just look for that field and you drag and drop it in. Now, when it comes to doing calculations, I mentioned that you would use Excel formulas to set those up. So literally, I'm just going to use equal sum to total my trial balance up here. All right, and I know I don't know if there are any accountants on the call, but I know when it comes to reporting, they can get really particular about, do we do single line or double line? And again, it's just using Excel to do all of that. So this is an example of a trial balance with our counts going down the rows. But if I now want to see this broken out by, say, departments going across the column, then again, I just look for that field, drag and drop it in, and here I'm going to say make it go across the columns. And rather than the department code displaying, I want the department description to display. And so now if I run this report, you'll see my trial balance broken out by the departments going across the columns. Right? So from here, you hopefully you saw that it's displaying all my departments, but typically in a report, you want to limit the department information based on the actual user that opens this report up, and you want to limit to that user's security setting. So this is where parameters come into play. So if you remember in the P&L report that I showed earlier, there are the little boxes in the top left-hand corner. This is where you can truly create a parameter. These parameters allow you to slice and dice on a report for whatever level you want. So here, I now have the ability to choose what specific report I want to run this report for. And of course, this is where security ties in as well. So if I'm a department manager responsible for sales and marketing and HR, then this is the only thing that I can see and select from this list. All right. And the other thing to note about parameters, you can mix and match them however way you want. Like I can add in a entity parameter, I can add in a line of business parameter, period parameter, and this will ultimately allow me to get the exact level of granularity that I want in a report. All right. So here, this is an example of me just creating a GL report. But if I now want to switch over and create a payroll report, I just simply come into this module here and start dragging and dropping the fields from that particular data source. All right, so again, hopefully you're starting to see all the time and energy that you guys can save just from learning one reporting tool that allows you to create a report off of any of your data sources. All right. So once the design is done here, you just simply export this report out or simply hit this upload report button and it will automatically push this report out to the web. So we say, you design in Excel, but you deploy it out through the web. So this is where anyone that now has access to the internet, whether it's from a computer or a mobile device, will be able to come in here, run this report. This is that department parameter that we just created in Excel. It translates over here into the portal. And here, this is now the exact report that we just created as a power user. All right. So with that said, that covers the reporting piece. I'm going to quickly go into the budgeting piece. All right. So Bit360, you have the ability to, either if you want to just start off with reporting, you can, and add budgeting later, or you can start off with both. We're scalable in that you don't have to buy our entire suite. You can just buy pieces of it when you're ready for it. Just an example, I'm just going to go through a couple of simple, straightforward budget examples. We'll start off with a forecasting template first. All right. But again, for Bit360, the data warehouse is where you're pulling all of the data that you need to do your budget, whether it's ERP data or data coming from Excel spreadsheets that you guys maintain or operational data. And this is an example of a departmental forecast. So as you can see, it looks very similar to a report in that they're driven by these parameters. So here as a department manager, I'll only be able to budget or forecast for the specific department my security is set up for. All right. Other things that you'll notice here, though, the big difference between a report is that in a forecast template or a budget template, you're going to see yellow color fields, and that's how we indicate to the users that this is where you're going to do your actual input. All right, so I'm going to actually run this for the period of September. Right now it's running for October, so you see actuals pulling in starting from October, but I'm going to change my parameter to the September month. And then hopefully you'll see how this forecast template dynamically shifts. All right, so now what it's doing is giving me my actuals up until September. So this is where, that data integration that we set up to automatically pull the actual data coming from the ERP, this is where we start to see it. And the nice thing about this is that anytime you have access to actual data, you can drill down into that amount at any point in time. So based on the actuals, now I have the ability to forecast out for the remaining periods of the year, and this has already been entered in that I did in a previous demo, but you can take in existing forecast versions and just modify it. You can take in like last year forecast or last year budget and use that as a starting point to modify it, or you can just re-enter in new forecast numbers from scratch. Once you're done entering in the remaining periods of the year, you just simply hit the store data button and it automatically saves as a forecast. Once the month of September is done, then I just simply rerun this template. And then you're going to see this template dynamically shift to pull in now the actual data up until October. Okay, and then whatever forecast numbers that was entered in for the previous months will get populated to use as a starting point, and I can re-enter my forecast for this new month. All right, so again, hopefully this is where you're starting to see just the efficiencies that you'll gain with Bit360, because today you're probably having to copy and paste actual numbers from one spreadsheet and then using another spreadsheet to enter in your forecast numbers. But Bit360, you have immediate access to any of your actual data, and then any forecast data that you enter, it gets pushed back to that same data warehouse, so that your data warehouse now stores actual data, it stores forecast data, it stores budget data, and you can pull that information out into any kind of report for analysis purposes. All right, another example that I want to show you is now an example of an annual budget. So this is a monthly forecast. So keep in mind that all of our budgeting and forecasting templates are created with the same Excel designer so that you can also easily modify this if you want to do quarterly forecast, if you want to do weekly, daily forecast, even 3-year forecast, 5-year forecast. You can tweak the columns to however way you want it to be. All right. So now I'm going to shift from this monthly departmental forecast into an annual budget, and because I want to show you some other cool features there. All right. So similar to the forecast and the reports are driven by these parameters that allow you to slice and dice for a particular department or division. We talked about, writing back to multiple budget versions. So this is where you can say, hey, this is just the version 1 budget, or this is going to be the final budget round. You can select which budget version you're writing back to. All right, so here if I scroll over to the right, this is where I'm starting to see the actual data coming from my ERP data source. But because this was ran for 2021-09, you see that now for the remaining periods of the month, it's pulling in the forecast information. And where was this forecast information inputted? It was from that previous forecast template that I just showed. So the forecast numbers that I entered in, it's now pulling into this other expense annual budget. And based off of the forecast, it's now going to help me determine the budget amount for next year. So this is where now we have the full 12 months of next year to enter in the budget, and I can key in numbers like I'm doing now. Or what you can do is we have different spreading options where if you want to just do like an even spread across the 12 months, you can do that, and it'll automatically do the calculation for you and populate the amounts for you. So you don't have to manually key in every amount. Or if you want, we find this to be very helpful, is if you want to do an adjustment from a previous budget or prior year actuals or whatever type of scenario you want to use as a starting point, you use that as a baseline. And then from there, you can do an adjustment like a 3% adjustment or 5% adjustment and automatically do the calculation for you. All right, other things that you can do, we have also the ability to enter in line item details. So here I'm budgeting for conference and seminars. And if I want to get a little bit more specific to add in detail that your chart of accounts doesn't support, I can say, hey, we went to the Bit360 conference. We typically host it every August. You can add in as many lines as you want. So if there's, maybe like another conference that you guys go to, you can add them in and it'll automatically roll them up here. And it'll also get saved to the data warehouse, right? So with budgeting, similar to the reports, we have tons of templates that are available for download for free. We have, and I'm just going to quickly scan through some of the examples that we have. All right, so we have payroll budget, we have travel budget, capital expenditure budget. If you want to do your P&L by 5-year forecast, or you want to capture strategy and goals, these are all templates that are downloadable for free. We have balance sheet budget, cash flow budget. So keep in mind that also these templates can be customized to incorporate, any custom budget templates that you guys have, and it could easily be designed in with our Excel-based designer. All right, so with that, I do want to quickly just switch back to reporting just to tie this all together. We've entered in some budget data in the other expense form. And so anytime you enter in budget data, it'll automatically get updated in any of your reports. And again, that's where you're going to gain the #1 efficiencies, because you no longer have to copy and paste actuals from somewhere, budget data from another place to compile it in a report for presentational purposes. As soon as you enter that submit information in for your budget, our system will automatically track it and it'll pull it, spit it back out in a report like this. So going back to this P&L report, we talked about the ability to capture multiple budget versions. Hopefully this is all starting to make sense now. This is where you can select which particular budget version you want to compare your actuals to. And then whatever budget version you select here, it's going to populate this budget month column. So just to reiterate, any actual data, any data in this actual column, it's going to automatically come from your ERP. But now this budget data these numbers will reflect based on the budget and numbers that you use to enter in the budget information through our templates. All right, and this will automatically update all of your budget data. All right, so with that, hopefully you saw just how our reporting tool and our budgeting tool are essentially really married to each other, and that whatever you do for your budgeting, whatever budget information or forecast information you enter in, it'll automatically update in your reports. All right. And the last thing I want to cover in budgeting before we end this webinar and open up the floor for questions is we have something called workflow. All right, so workflow, this is really great in that it gives you visibility into the entire budgeting process. You can assign specific budget templates out to different users. Maybe, Sarah's responsible for doing the payroll, or John is responsible for doing the capital expenditure. And you can monitor where they are in the budgeting process. So you can see like these are the users that haven't started on their budget yet. These are the ones that are in progress. We also have an approval system. I mentioned this, in that before any budget gets officially submitted, there's a chance for someone to send it off to an approval for a review. The approver can look at it and they can say yes or no. They also have the ability to enter in comments saying, I'm rejecting this budget because this particular account number is too high, please revise. And so all of the back and forth commenting that takes place, our system tracks it as well. So these comments are no longer lost in email threads that you have to hunt for. But Bit360, all the comments are right there in the template. So you can follow the commenting back and forth really easily. All right, and then of course, once a budget gets approved, it goes into the completed section. So other things to note is we have these like progress status metrics here, where you can easily see 13% of the budget is done, 1 out of 8 templates are completed. We also have due dates that you can set for any budget. This is really great in pushing people to enter the budgets in at a select date. The other thing is if you can set windows and say, hey, we're going to open up the budgeting templates. You have a week to do it. So during that week, the budget templates are open and available for people to do entries. But once the week is over, then the templates are completely locked down. So this is to ensure no last minute changes get entered in. You can really push people to do their budgets so that you have enough time to go through the approval and preparing all the work that you need to do and getting the budget ready in time. All right, so with that, I just want to quickly wrap up and do a summary. We talked about how Bit360 offers a reporting engine, a budgeting engine. It's ultimately fed through our data warehouse. The data warehouse ultimately allows you to bring in all of the data sources that you need for reporting and budgeting purposes. Right. I showed you some examples of reports and how easy it is for users to go in and slice and dice. The convenient thing about the portal is that users truly can access reports anywhere, anytime they want. So they no longer have to bug the accounting and financing team and be like, hey, can you email this report for me? You can enable them, give them a license so that they can log in on their own to get the information that they need. The other thing that we talked about is budgeting, and that in our portal, you have the ability to enter in budgets, you have the ability to enter in forecasts, and the convenient thing about Bit360 being a reporting tool and a budgeting tool is that whatever budget information you enter in, it will automatically update any reports that hit that budget data. All right, and last but not least, in the budgeting, we also talked about workflow, and that workflow will give you visibility into the entire budgeting process. You can, monitor where people are. You have the ability to set up approvals so that budgets get sent for an approval before it officially gets submitted. All right, so with that, I'm really hoping that you're starting to see how BI360 can enable you into making world-class decisions. That's our entire company is all about world-class decision making, and really hope that BI360 can help you guys get there. So with that, I'm going to now open up the floor for questions before we wrap up here.
All right, and I've been monitoring it so far, Ohi, and I haven't seen any. So I'll just give it another minute, and if not, then I thank everyone for attending. And yeah, if you, like I said earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Angela Harris. And yeah, thanks again.
All righty, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, Ohi.
All right, bye-bye.